So today is September 11th, 2019, exactly 18 years since the September 11th terrorist attacks that occurred in 2001 in New York City. I remember this day like yesterday. Like, I remember exactly how this day played out. It started out as a normal day in Chicago, Illinois. Got ready for school, went to school. I was in the third grade at the time. I was very young, very, very young. I was 8 years old. And I remember, I was seven or eight, I believe eight. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was about, no, I was eight. So I remember, it was a regular day, and then out of nowhere, the teachers started getting like frantic. They were going from room to room because we had, classrooms across the hall, and the teachers was leaving the room and telling the kids hold on, and they were trying to discuss things with each other. And I saw the look on their face, like they was in a look of shock and a look of horror, like they was like shocked and just like didn't know what to do. And I remember looking and trying to figure out what's going on. Like, what is going on? Why are they looking like this? Why are they looking like this? And they were trying to explain the situation, but we were so young that we really didn't exactly understand what was going on, the severity of what was going on. But I knew something was wrong by the look that they had on their face. I remember them talking on the intercom and telling all the students we were about to be released from school within like the next hour or so. And I was just like, what is going on? What is going on? Like, what's happening that everybody is just so frantic? What was going on, the September 11th attacks had already happened in New York. The planes had hit. And a lot of people were suspecting that Chicago would be the next stop for some other terrorist attacks because they believed there was another terrorist attack going to occur. Like they didn't know that everybody was on edge and was nervous about another terrorist attack happening in another major city. And Chicago, Illinois was a city that people may have suspected something was going to go down in. So we were sent home in an hour. I remember getting on the bus going home. And again, it didn't register to me what was going on. I knew my mother at the time was working downtown Chicago. So she was coming home. When we got home, she was already at home. And she had the news on. And I was watching, the image of the building on fire, the building's on fire and debris everywhere. And I was just like, what is going on? And my mom told me what exactly had happened. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm thinking, thank God that, the attacks didn't happen in Chicago because, my mother was working downtown. That's how I was thinking, as a kid. And even then, even now. But at the same time, it's like selfish of me to think that too because so many people lost their lives that day. So many people lost their lives. A lot of families were hurt and they would never be the same. A classmate of mine in particular, I remember, her uncle had died in these attacks. The debris from the buildings fell on him and he didn't make it. And she was talking about what was going on and how it affected her family when we came back to school. And like we were just in shock. It was just one of them times where it was like I remember the TV programs. The next day, how all day it was like all dedicated to the events. The terrorist attacks that had occurred, man. And I just remember hearing about people being on a plane calling their wives and their significant others, or just like calling their wives and being in a lot of fear. Of course, and panic and telling their wives, I love you and I'm not gonna make it. And I remember hearing stories of that type of stuff. People saying those things. I remember the firemen trying to pull people from under debris. I remember at the time, like it was so much, the patriotism was real high because of what was going on, and like God Bless America was going on, and just the country was just shook to its core. And again, man, I saw how a classmate of mine was affected from it. I saw how like everybody was feeling. I was so young that I didn't understand the magnitude until I got home and saw it on TV. And then even then, as I got older, I really, really understood the magnitude of everything and how a lot of people's lives changed and it'll never be the same. People jumping from the buildings, just trying to escape. The building on fire collapsing. They were trying to escape. People jumping to their deaths. people trying to make it out and didn't make it, and some people that did make it, and you know, people trying to help other people, trying to first responders trying to help other people dying, and it was tragic. Just very, very tragic times, man. I just remember that day. I felt like at one point everything was just standing still because it was like, man, I can imagine being an adult, right? And I can imagine being my mother. She working downtown Chicago. You just don't know what's gonna happen. I had other family members working downtown. Several other family members outside of my mom, and everybody just shook. Like they don't know, they didn't know what was gonna happen. Like we got to go home. You just never know. Like you never knew what was gonna happen. It was suspected that Chicago would be next amongst the major cities, or the nation's capital, I believe. But yeah, man, I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing at the time. I remember, I think 106 and Park was popping. I used to watch BET and MTV a lot, and all the next day the programs were dedicated to the September 11th terrorist attacks, because it was just an American tragedy. And yeah, man, I just remember like how all the teachers were reacting, and how we got sent home early, and we was just like, you know, I remember like my mama was not saying nothing, just watching the TV, just like in disbelief, complete disbelief. And my grandmother was doing the same exact thing, and they was just quiet and just like, oh my God. My mama just was saying, oh my God, like, and then I really just understood what was going on. But my condolences to the families that, you know, lost their loved ones. Rest in peace to their loved ones that lost their lives at the hands of some evil and malicious people, man. Some evil and malicious people. Period. Evil and malicious people. But yeah, I remember this just like it was yesterday. And I hope that, you know, God has healed the families that were affected by it, and you know, they have gained some type of healing from it, man. Since then, not from it, but they've gained some type of healing since those attacks have occurred, man. People lost spouses, people lost children, grandchildren, brothers, sisters, cousins, all, you know, just people lost their family. So tragic event, complete, like extremely tragic. But I was just remembering what I remember about that day, and I remember my classmate, you know, mourning her uncle as well. But yeah, do y'all remember the day that I remember it? I remember exactly what was going on. I remember exactly where I was, and I'm always gonna remember that, because it was just like that was the first like real tragedy that I can remember affecting the nation at that age range. Like me being 8, you know what I'm saying? Of course, when you get older, you learn about you know history, and you learn about a lot of other heinous things that have occurred, for real. But at that time, that was like the big thing that I knew, and something that I lived to experience. So I remember it like it was yesterday. But yeah, I just always remember that. I remember exactly where I was, man. But rest in peace to the individuals who had their lives taken during the September 11th terrorist attacks. Machiavelli Mills TV. Peace.